Hey, welcome back to the kitchen. Today I am feeling ready for fall. It's the end of July and I'm kind of over the heat and I just kind of want a little taste of fall. So I thought I would, for the first time for me, make some of the Pioneer Woman's pumpkin cinnamon rolls. I've had that recipe in my binder for a long time. I've just never made it because the rest of the family is okay with pumpkin but don't love it. But today is the day I'm just gonna go ahead and make it and see how much I love it. I am gonna change one thing on it. The icing is a cream cheese icing for her, but I'm gonna use her maple icing for the regular cinnamon rolls because we will like that a lot better. So let's get into how this recipe is made. To start on this recipe, we're gonna start warming our pan onto low. We're going to be warming up the milk, but we do not wanna scald it. We don't want to burn it. We just want to warm it. We're not even going to let it boil. We're just gonna warm it up. So to this pot, we're gonna put our milk, our oil, and our sugar. I'm just stirring that until it's nicely blended. As it warms, the sugar will start dissolving. You'll wanna stir periodically just because you don't want the sugar to stick and burn on the bottom. While that's warming up, I'm gonna go ahead and measure out my 1 cup of pumpkin puree. All right, that has warmed up, so I'm gonna turn off the heat. And now we are going to remove it from the heat and let it get cooled just a little bit where it's warm to the touch, not too hot. Then we'll add in our yeast and let it bloom. All right, we've let this cool down a bit to where it is warm but not too hot. So we're gonna add in our yeast. We're gonna give it a gentle stir and leave it for 5 minutes to bloom. All right, it's been 5 minutes. So now we need to add in our pumpkin puree, 1 cup of that. I'm gonna mix that in. Now what it says to do is mix the flour with the spices together and then add this. I'm gonna kind of adapt that step a little bit. You can absolutely do that if you'd like to. I'm gonna sprinkle in my spices into our pumpkin mix and mix it that way and then add the flour. I'm gonna mix this really well. This looks really good and smooth, well incorporated here. So I'm going to set this aside and cover it up. So we're gonna let this sit and rise for 1 hour. Then we're going to add in our baking soda, baking powder, salt, and 1/2 cup of flour. Mix that in and then we'll be ready to go. While we're waiting for our dough to rise, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on our filling. I'm gonna melt our butter so it's ready to go and mix our sugars. And if you don't know this already, all brown sugar is granulated sugar that has molasses added into it. So if you're missing brown sugar or you don't have enough regular sugar, what you can do is use light brown sugar in substitution, or you can use regular granulated sugar and add just a little bit of molasses to your mix to make up for the brown sugar. And basically, I just want to get as many of these clumps out as possible so that we can spread it over our roll dough before we roll it up and bake it. That looks really good there. So I'm going to set this on our station where we're going to roll them out. and let them wait. While we're waiting for our dough to rise as well, I'm going to go ahead and make our icing. Here is our powdered sugar. And to that, we are going to add our coffee, our melted butter, 1/4 teaspoon of our maple extract. I've got some extra in case I need some extra milk for this. It should be thick, but still pourable, the consistency of your icing. That is looking really good right there. That'll thicken up a little bit as it sits, so if I need to add a little bit more milk to it, I will. But that looks really pretty. It smells really good with that little bit of coffee and maple. All right, we'll set that aside for later. All right, our timer has gone off, so our dough should be good to go. So I'm gonna turn off that timer. And I'm gonna go ahead and get our pan ready with some butter. Brought out another pan just in case I need it. I don't know, since it's the first time I made this one, how many rolls it's gonna make exactly. I also need to preheat our oven to 375. I'm just taking from the melted butter that we're going to be putting on the inside of the rolls with the cinnamon mixture and the sugar. That ought to do it. Look at our dough. That looks really nice. And like I said, we need to add the extra ingredients, the extra flour, 1/2 cup, as well as the baking soda, baking powder, and salt. All right, we're gonna turn this dough out onto our rolling station. So let's move over there. It says to turn out the dough onto a lightly floured surface. So I'm going to shake out some flour, and I'm gonna get messy hands for this. So I like to dump some flour on the side over here that I can pull from and not have to get my sticky fingers on my scoop. Gonna be all I can get from there. Now what we're gonna do is add some flour onto our hands and sprinkle some on top of our dough. And we're going to press it out. This is pretty sticky. It said to add a little extra flour if it was sticky. So I'm gonna just lather some flour on here. We're gonna press this out into a rectangle. Feels fairly even right there. Kind of square up my sides a little bit. Now we take our butter that we melted earlier. If you need to melt it again, feel free. This is soft enough still where I'm going to be able to spread it over our dough very well. Pour this in the middle. Spread it all over. I'm using a silicone basting brush to spread this butter out. You could use your hands if you don't have one. Just gets a little bit messier for you, but in for dollar, in for a pound, right? once you've got that nicely spread out, it's all even. I did pumpkin pie spice that I've mixed together, so this also has ginger in it. But if you want to just use the 3 she mentioned, do that. You're going to take it and sprinkle it evenly over your dough and butter. Now we're going to top that with our sugar mixture that we did earlier. Again, evenly. Try to get most of it on the dough. If a little bit goes over, it's no big deal. It's going to be messy, but try to keep most of it on your product. And then the last thing we're going to add is our chopped up nuts. Same thing, spread it all over. Alright, our next step is to take this dough that we have flattened out, we're going to roll it into a log for that classic cinnamon roll look. So how you do that is you roll it towards yourself. You start at the end opposite of you and roll it over a little bit. And then you just keep going. Roll it again. Just keep rolling, trying to keep it as tight as possible. But with how sticky it is, it's a little bit challenging there. Get my dough scraper and help with this. Pinch that together because that's getting to our outside. Alright, what I'm going to do now is kind of take it, scrape it up, and roll it onto that bottom. Get it away from the edge of my counter a little bit. There we go. Now we have our log. We're going to cut this into pieces, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. Here's our buttered dish. We're going to cut the log into our pieces, 1/2 inch to 3/4. I'm going to do 3/4 of an inch. I want a thicker cinnamon roll today, but you do whatever size you want, and then we're going to let them rise for 20 minutes. I'm going to go about halfway. That's an inch. We'll go over. So here's 3/4 of an inch right here. Make that into a circle again and lay it into our pan. You do not have to be precise on this. Just get them close to the same size. You can measure each and every one you want. It's up to you. It's fine that they're not perfect looking right now. That's why we're gonna let it rise for 20 minutes so that the dough can reactivate. And then once they bake, they'll be rising even more and they'll look beautiful. And then whatever is off looking, so to speak, will get covered by icing as well. They're gonna look delicious. Alright, I am gonna need my other pan, so let me get that buttered. Alright, got another one buttered and did another small one for the extra few. here's how our rolls are looking after we've gotten them rolled out, cut, and into the pans. So now I'm going to use the same cloth and cover them up for 20 minutes, and then we'll be back. It's been 20 minutes. Let's see what we're looking like. Yeah, they're a little bit lighter, puffier. It's given the glutens a little bit time to kind of relax and start doing its thing again. So we're going to stick these in the oven for 15 to 18 minutes. I'm going to go 18 minutes since I did bigger, and we'll be back. Timer is up, so let's check on our rolls. Steamy. You can see on the outside here, they're starting to turn golden brown. They're solid, not like hard, but they're not gooey on the sides. So let me whip up our icing, see how it is. Yeah, that's really good. We're gonna pour on some icing while they're hot, so it'll be all ooey gooey. Those look beautiful. Well, I will let the family dig into these and see how they like them, but thank you so much for joining me in the kitchen today to make these lovely and delicious smelling pumpkin cinnamon rolls. I hope that it encourages you to pick out a recipe that you have been wanting to try and give it a whirl, and who knows, maybe it'll be this one, because fall is coming up and it's always a good time to try a new recipe. So thanks again for joining us, and we hope you have a blessed day. Bye.